Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. So just a quick video, I wanted to talk about how governments manipulate us, which I guess is nothing new to most people, but just that they were talking about in England removing all COVID restrictions next week. And they've been planning this since January because, and it wasn't, and this is how easy it is to manipulate people and fear and stuff like that with numbers. And this is why, that maxim, lies, damn lies, and statistics is so relevant to these times where, it's not like Winston Smith in 1984 changing the news stories and the data. Don't have to do that. You do it in front of everyone. So in January the 5th, I believe it was, the government changed what you had to do, whether if you had COVID, if you thought you had COVID when you did a test. If you did a lateral flow test in the past, previous to that, you'd have to take a PCR test. And of course, that's run by a laboratory. So, whereas a lateral flow test, you do it yourself and you put the results yourself. Whereas a PCR test is, you have to send a sample and it gets tested, and then those results are recorded by whoever's testing that, which is a lot more reliable because then the people who would test themselves, it's up to them whether they do it or not. And there's some benefits for not doing that. Like if you needed to continue doing your job, I believe if you had symptoms, you still had to do the PCR test. And of course, they've also changed ones to do with travel as well. So what that means is it didn't seem like very much, and it wasn't really reported very much. But what it meant is that would reflect in the infection figures, which everyone is relying on. And the reason it was done is for economic reasons. Now, previous to this, they were using those figures to fear us, to make us see like, oh, you've got to stay home, you've got to be in lockdown. So it does make you wonder, really, were they really concerned about us? What was the end goal? If it was like a murder crime, who benefited? Because why is it now they're, changing that data? Because the reason they did that was to reduce the infection rates, so then they could say a few weeks later, oh look, infection rates are coming down. Everyone's forgotten about the 5th of January changes. No journalist was reporting that. No one remembered it. And so therefore it just looks like, oh, infections come down, but deaths remain the same. And that's the indicator. And of course, I'm sure they're going to change that soon, that they will change how they report COVID deaths, i.e. they'll probably actually do it properly and if it's a primary reason, whereas currently I suspect anyone who dies, even if they'd had a heart attack, if they had COVID as well, that's probably the reason. It may not be a causatory reason, but I'm sure that's what's being put down. So those figures are, it depends how it's recorded, how accurate it is. But I'm sure that's going to change as well, so that therefore then the deaths will come down, and then it's easy for them to just say, oh yeah, go about your way. So the key thing is the PCR and the lateral flow tests were never 100% showing of infection, but what I'm trying to get at is how governments use figures openly for their agenda. When they want you to stay at home, everyone has to take a test everywhere they go, so that therefore you get a lot of data coming in, and that raises the infection. And when they want you to all go back to work and companies to, go get all their employees in, they change the rules so the infection rate comes down. The infection rate never changed. Well, it may have done, but we wouldn't really know it because they changed the way they recorded it. And if you do that, then that data is no longer comparable with previous. But no one's talking about that because they don't care about that, because all their agenda is everything's back to normal. It's despite the WHO saying that, no, it's not, it's still a pandemic. Matt Hancock used the word endemic the other day. No one else has picked up on that. And I don't think the government has actually changed its stance, but it was just putting it in your mind that, oh yeah, you don't need to worry, it's not a pandemic anymore. Previous 200 to 400 people dying a day would have been enough for a lockdown. Now it's not. Now it's go about your general day. So it does make you wonder, really, did they ever care about us? Or was it to do with power and control and getting us to trust vaccines again, because that's been waning, I mean, there's all sorts of, I get controversial reasons for what this was all about. Maybe it was just natural and it just happened, and it wasn't some kind of mistake in a Wuhan laboratory that's funded by who knows. And it was just some natural thing that just happened, but I don't know, why did it benefit governments to put us in lockdown? Because obviously they would have lost a lot of money. Although they don't care about losing money because they just borrow it. It's not like us where we have to worry about interest rates and stuff. They just borrow money and have their parties and carry on. I mean, if they cared about us, they get rid of money. They get rid of all these old ways things and make life easier for everyone, but they won't do those things. So I don't know. It just doesn't. What the point is, I don't know. Those things are just. We don't know those variables, but the point I'm making is how you can manipulate figures and data in an open way, in a way that's transparent and not doesn't seem deceptive. No, I didn't change that 5th of January thing because I wanted the infection rate to come down so I could get everyone back to work and get the economy going back up and make money, which is my primary cause. I'm talking to the government, not me. They will say, well, they did that because, well, this has to change and they want to, make it restrictions lower, whatever, or some other reason they come up with it so it doesn't seem nefarious or anything. But it's just, I mean, if you do that, then it's fine if you want to change the way you capture data. But the thing is, then you have to make people aware that you can't really compare that because you've lost that comparison because you changed the way you capture that data. It's not comparable anymore. But they haven't done that. They've used that lower infection rate to say that, well, everything's fine now. But like I say, the key of knowing whether that is true or not is if the infection rate did go down, you'd expect deaths to go down. And I know people that say, well, yeah, Saturday, Monday and Tuesday was only like lower. But that's because Saturday and Sunday they don't do the reporting because it's a weekend. I don't know why that is, but I guess that's to do with their system. But you see, when it goes to Tuesday and Thursday, they all back up to 200 plus, 300, 400. And therefore that, if the infection rate has dropped down so much, like half, you'd expect the death rate also to do something similar because they do tie in. Or they have previously, so you'd expect that. But the fact that they've stayed quite high still suggests to me that it hasn't really changed, but what's changed is the way we've reported it. As usual, what matters is money. It's unfortunate, isn't it? But that's the old system that we all are voting for, we're all keeping alive. Take it easy, guys. Peace.